Jon Rahm is the current #1 ranked golfer in the world, and he drives the ball so long and straight that many people believe that he is currently the best driver in the game. But a wise man once told me, do not blindly copy champions. So right after this, let's see what we can copy about his swing and a couple of things that I don't think you should try to copy. So stay tuned. So first, let's take a look at some of the things that I think you should copy, some really solid fundamentals that are going to keep Jon Rahm near the top of the rankings for a long time. First, number one, I want you to see how open his body is at the moment of impact. Look at how much you can see of his back and his backside. That is really helping him get a lot of power. But as he opens up like this, it also helps him to control his low point, make divots in front, and that's something that the average golfer can have a hard time with. But it also goes a long way towards helping him control the club face and keep it square for a long time. All right, now let's back into the slot position again. I want you to see where this club is. Do you see how when it's in the slot, just past halfway down, that shaft lines right up with his right forearm? So it's in what we would call a really shallow position. And this really helps him with his angle of attack, his power, and still his accuracy. Most golfers don't come anywhere near the right forearm, and I'd love to see you get lower like this. What I see most golfers, they're coming more above the shoulder with the club shaft just like that. So a much steeper position of the shaft is very common in the average golfer, and so we would definitely like to emulate the super shallow shaft position. Now, one last thing that I think you should emulate, it's a little bit more advanced. I think if you can get those first 2 points going, then you're going to be really improved with your driving game. This last one is the handle pass. So again, we're going to watch not the shaft or the club head, but we're going to watch the stick end of the club in between his hands, and you're going to see that it moves beautifully in an arc right from here, and this is causing the club to kick out. The club head is going to kick out around the hands and get really squared up early. Watch this action here. See the club head, which was 2 frames ago, kind of trapped behind his hands, but because he's moving so leftwards with the handle right there, that the head kicks around. And now watch this last frame right before impact. Look at these frames before impact. You really see how square that club face is coming into the ball so early. Really hard to go offline from here. Okay, let's look at a couple things that I don't think you should try to copy. The first thing is the bowed wrist. Well, it seems to be a big talking point on TV lately. You see how bowed his left wrist is, or turned down. I think it is used by Rahm as kind of a comprehensive piece of what he does with his wrist throughout the swing. So unless you're going to copy everything else he does with his wrist throughout the downswing, I don't think it's necessary to try to get the wrist bowed like this. And I'm more of an advocate of just having it more flat. Now, another thing I don't think you should try to emulate is the short backswing without a lot of wrist cock. Again, Rahm is young. He's really strong. He shifts his weight and turns his body incredibly powerfully. And if you're not able to do that, then this style just is not going to produce the results for you like it does for him. He hits the ball over 300 yards in the air, and it takes a lot of strength and youth to do that. But what I would prefer that you do is make more of a full cocking of the wrists and try to get that club back to parallel, no matter what age you are, because I think it's going to make hitting the ball out there for distance just a little easier on you. All right, the third thing that I don't think you should necessarily copy, although arguably it works sensationally for Rahm, but I advocate a little bit of a different wrist action at the bottom, and I think the way Rahm does it might be a little harder for you to time if you're the average golfer. What you're going to see here is that he holds on to that bow in the left wrist, which would ordinarily tend to leave the club a little bit open. So he's pivoting really hard, opening up really hard, and holding that bowed wrist. And this certainly doesn't allow him to go left very often. He's not going to double cross himself. He's usually going to hit his little low fade, but he does put a little extra twist to the wrist. So as he's holding on to it, he finds some squaring force in the twisting of the shaft going through impact. And you can see this manifest itself into the follow-through, where he's got a little bit of a hold right here. It's not a free flapping sensation, but instead a little bit of hold and toe flip. Now, how can we see that? Well, we start to see the evidence of that at last parallel here. You can see a little bit of the toe flip, but you can really see the way his wrists are as they come out from his shoulder. Watch this position right here. You can see that he's taken his wrists and he's kind of rotated the shaft around itself. And so it's a really interesting combination of movements, which obviously works extremely well for him. But I don't think that the average golfer will be able to make this work nearly as well. All right, so there you have it. There's a few fundamental things that are absolutely worthy of emulating, and then a few other things that I think are just more personal to Rahm's swing that he's been doing his whole life. He probably doesn't even realize he's doing them, but he's just a really good golfer, and so there's no reason to try to fix anything. So hey, let me know what you think about Jon Rahm's swing down in the comments. I'm Steve. Thanks so much for watching, and as usual, I will either see you in the next video or I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.